Syracuse's biggest weakness correlates with SMU's biggest strength.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another week of Locked On SMU here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Appreciate you guys taking the time to spend about a half hour with me or so. Our show today is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if the bet wins, you can get $300 in bonus bets. My name's Grayson Singleton. Coming up on the show today, Sam Pittman's fired at Arkansas. So what does that mean for our SMU head man, Rhett Lashlee? We'll talk about that. Plus, the defense is still searching for some continuity, even coming after the bye week. So we'll get into all of that coming up on Locked On today as we get ready for Syracuse week on this podcast. Okay, so Syracuse got bludgeoned by Duke this weekend, and surprisingly, really to nobody. Steve Angeli is out for the year, blew his Achilles. Backup quarterback didn't look all that fantastic. They didn't run the ball particularly well. Defense was a sieve. But speaking of the defense, here's why, even if Steve Angeli was playing, SMU's got an advantage. In their two games against Power 4 teams, as Syracuse has played Tennessee to open up the season and then beat Clemson in the game where Angeli got hurt. Against Syracuse, Tennessee ran the ball, including sacks, for 6.2 yards per carry. Ran it 40 times for 246 yards. Clemson, including sacks, against Tennessee, ran the ball 22 times for $140. 6.4 yards per carry. Adam Randall, their running back, 16 carries for $130. That's 8 yards per carry. Duke, they played 3 Power 4 games, by the way. Duke just ran the ball on Saturday 36 times for 236 yards and 6.6 yards per carry. By the way, that includes the yardage lost off of 2 Syracuse sacks. So if you take Darian Mensah out of it, Duke ran the ball for 32 yards for 258 yards. Quick math there. I have no idea how many yards per carry that is. It's about 7, and it proves the point that Syracuse run defense is awful. If you are SMU, your biggest strength to this point has been that your run game has been so prolific and so efficient that it can set up anything for this SMU offense. And if they want, they can run the ball 45 times down Syracuse's throat. The run blocking has been the best part of this team, for my money, this entire season. They run block exceptionally well, and TJ Harden and Chris Johnson Jr., you supplement them with Jermichael Green, an occasional cameo from him or Derek McFall. The quarterback run game, we'll see how involved that is with Kevin Jennings' ankle still not being 100%, and don't really know if it will be for the rest of the year. But if you just want to build some confidence, is there really no better way to build confidence than to be really good at what you're really good at? Like, think about it. If you're SMU and you're saying, man, I really want this offense to start to get its wheels back churning, get its feet underneath it, operate at its best, dude, run the ball. They're so good at running the ball that even if they don't throw it around a whole heck of a lot, which they still are going to throw the ball around, they're going to move up and down the field against this Syracuse defense, running it, and all of a sudden the offense looks fantastic. Keep this in mind. By the time we get to Saturday afternoon, when this game is going to kick off, it would have been 21 days since SMU last won a football game against Missouri State. So you haven't had that sort of positivity in almost a month. So you need to make sure that you can get any ounce of positivity that you can. And remember, we still haven't talked about the fact that Tennessee is operating with a backup quarterback. We're talking narrowly, extremely focused here on the fact that what SMU does best, Tennessee has no counter to. Because in 3 Power 4 games, I mean, it's atrocious. It is the worst run defense I have ever seen in my life. And most of that is the traditional run. Because keep this in mind too. If you're of the mindset, by the way, listening to this, and you're of the mindset that, well, Kevin Jennings hasn't ran the ball a whole heck of a lot, so maybe that will make it a little bit easier for Tennessee. Darian Mensah ran the ball 4 times for negative 22 yards. Cade Klubnik ran the ball 4 times for 1 yard. And Joey Aguilar ran the ball 6 times for 34 yards. Quarterbacks have not done much in the ground game against Syracuse. This is all traditional run game. I mean, Tennessee had 3 dudes, not including Joey Aguilar, that ran the ball for 4.5 yards per carry or more. 2 of them for over 7 yards a carry. We already talked about Clemson's running back. And then yesterday, if you didn't watch the game, Nate Shepard ran all over the Orange. 15 carries, $168. That's 11.2 yards per carry. They can't stop running backs. Like, you don't need that extra dimension of the quarterback run to gash this team on the ground. It's not needed because their front is getting pushed around into the linebackers, and it's just a flat-out disaster. And then if you're Syracuse and you're like, all right, cool, we know we can't stop the run, so we got to commit more bodies to the box so teams don't just run it down our throat. Well, guess what? Kevin Jennings is good enough to put a ball out there to Romello Brinson or Jordan Hudson or whomever he's going to want to throw it to. Jalen Cooper, count him in that conversation. So SMU should feel really good about this, but that's obvious. They should lean into it so that even though you're probably going to outclass Syracuse just because they're operating with a backup quarterback. And by the way, who knows what the vibes are like, because Steve Angeli was off to a really good start to this season too. So lean into what you know you can do. Run the ball 40 times. Just run it 40 times, man. Duke ran it 36 times. Clemson ran it 22 times. They were kind of behind in that game. And Tennessee ran the ball 40 times. I mean, run it down Syracuse's throat until they commit 7, 8 bodies to the box, which at that point, it's game on for whatever Rhett and Casey want to do. I mean, if you run the ball dominantly, it opens up everything. Now, all of a sudden, you're two-dimensional, and Syracuse now is on its heels, and you force their offense to keep up, again, with a backup quarterback. By the way, their said backup quarterback, Ricky Collins, 24 of 37, not miserable, 229 and an interception. Now, he threw an interception, and Syracuse lost 2 fumbles in that game. So they had trouble holding on to the ball. It was just an all-around bad showing for them. Jonte Cook lost both of them, by the way. Ricky Collins also fumbled, but they didn't lose that one. So Syracuse, a really, really rough outing from everybody involved. Didn't move the ball consistently, turned it over when they did, and couldn't stop a soul. But I'm going to focus on what remains unchanged, regardless of the quarterback situation. And that's the fact that they can't stop the run, and SMU is really dang good at doing exactly that. Coming up next, Arkansas has fired Sam Pittman. Will they come calling for Rhett Lashlee next? Keep it here. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, but with B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar, which means no crashes. What I love most about it is how portable they are. Big taste in a tiny shot, and you can fit it anywhere you want. Backpack, pocket, whatever. Why do I love 5-hour energy shots? Well, I've struggled with those late day crashes when it comes with other energy drinks. And I love it just because they're sugar free. So they don't raise my insulin, and I don't get any crashes. I love how fast it kicks in as well. And again, get that quick energy, lasts me the rest of my working day. So enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon today. Back to the show here on Locked On SMU. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. Remember, hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and to the audio listeners on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Really appreciate you as well. Okay, big news coming out of Sunday. Sam Pittman was fired by Arkansas. Now, you may be wondering, okay, why am I dedicating a whole segment to this? And if you were on social media on Sunday afternoon, everybody was writing their own think pieces and their own predictions about, okay, who does Arkansas go after next? Similar to what we did with Oklahoma State when they fired Mike Gundy earlier on last week. And the number one name on almost everything I saw and the picture that everybody used in their articles was Rhett Lashlee. And of course, it's a no-brainer, right? Rhett Lashlee played for Arkansas. He is one of the hottest rising commodities in the coaching ranks in all of college football. I mean, it's a short list of him and G.J. Kinney and Ben Arbuckle, but the difference between the first two is that they've already been head coaches. You got the guy at USF who's starting to make waves, but Rhett Lashlee was at the top of every single list. Now, I don't know what Rhett Lashlee's buyout is, and quite frankly, I don't think it's important because it's Arkansas. And Rhett Lashlee to Arkansas, if he ever wanted to do it, would make a lot of sense. Number one, Arkansas is not short of money. If SMU says, all right, here's what the buyout is, Arkansas can pay the buyout. They're one of a few schools that, and remember, it's harder to fire coaches these days because you have to commit so much money to building a roster now. So it's harder to fire coaches because you got to pay a buyout. And then if you want to go get a big time name from somewhere else, you got to pay his buyout and then, give him a contract. So it's a little bit harder. But Arkansas is one of those schools where that may not apply as much. So whatever the price is, if Arkansas wanted to do it and Rhett Lashlee wanted to do it, Arkansas could make it work. There's also the second thing about Arkansas, which would make Rhett Lashlee a pretty damn good fit. And that is, Arkansas is never starved of characters. I mean, look at the dude they just fired, Sam Pittman. Sam Pittman is a brand of his own. You look at the dude that they just brought in as their men's basketball coach, John Calipari, a brand of his own. By the way, the dude he replaced, who's now at USC, a brand of his own. So when it comes to Arkansas sports, if you can be your own character and draw people in just because of that, by the way, their interim head coach right now is none other than Bobby Petrino. So if the Arkansas, no matter where you slice it, when it comes to the revenue generating sports, it's not just the team. It's not just the team that you go see. You have recognizable figures, which will always drive up the brand's value. And what Rhett Lashlee did over the summer, making waves when it comes to calling out Kirk Cignetti or calling out the ESPN FPI or getting into it with Paul Feinbaum and then, going on Paul Feinbaum's show at the end of the summer, Rhett Lashlee has made himself, whether he intended to or not, he has made himself a very polarizing coaching figure. And I think Arkansas is a place for polarizing coaching figures. Again, just look at all the people that they have employed recently. So there's that side of it. That's the Arkansas fit side of it. Now, do I think that Rhett Lashlee would necessarily or automatically leave SMU if Arkansas's first call would be to him, which I would imagine Arkansas's first call would be to him? Do I believe he would leave? It depends on his values. and it depends on where he is in his life with regard to where he wants to be. Rhett Lashlee right now is 42 years old. So he reasonably could think, man, I've got this opportunity to be a head coach of the SEC. I'm 42 years old, not 35. Let me go ahead and do it. And it would make sense. Or if his values are, man, I'm in the process of resurrecting this program, whether or not you think the program is already resurrected because they already made a college football playoff, which again, a matter of perspective. If he values staking his legacy intricately with SMU, then you don't have to worry about him leaving. But if it's a career-driven thing, I want to go back to where I made a name for myself as a quarterback, familiar spot. I would never have to buy a drink at Fayetteville again, especially if that program all of a sudden becomes successful. You could reasonably see him decide to make the jump to the SEC. And look, Sonny Dykes left SMU after success to go to TCU. And to me, that says, and Sonny Dykes is in a different stage of his life than Rhett Lashlee is, don't get me wrong. But to me, that says that SMU, while it is back as a relevant college football program, isn't necessarily a dream destination sort of end of career type of job. It's not there yet. It's not Alabama, right? It's not that. So it's not Clemson. It's not Notre Dame. So to me, it's just always going to be a matter of how does Rhett Lashlee view his current spot within the confines of what he wants to do with his career. If his ultimate goal in his career is to be an excellent SMU coach and we're going to take this program as high as possible, then you got nothing to worry about. But if his goal is, I want to be an awesome SEC coach, I played at an SEC spot, then you've got something to worry about. Now, I will say this one thing, and I think this season, in lieu of what we're talking about, becomes even more important to keeping Rhett Lashlee around. Because the coaching circle, you can rise and you can plateau in it. And you can probably think of whichever name in college football or the NFL that this would apply to. When you're hot, you're hot. But if you plateau, or if your reputation starts to take a dip, you may have missed your window. So it's imperative that if SMU wants to keep him around, you got to go 8-4 and 9-3. If it starts to look like last year was a fluke, I think that heightens the possibility that Rhett Lashlee could seriously entertain or take the Arkansas job if and when it is offered to him. Because I don't think at this point it's a matter of if. He will be offered the job. There will be communication between Arkansas and Rhett Lashlee. It'll ultimately depend on his values and his perspective on where he is in his career, whether or not he seriously entertains it or not. Coming up next, we'll wrap up the show talking about some more uneasy news about the defense. Stay tuned. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo. You guys used to know it as Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, but just a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hour calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you and your employees are off the clock. So see why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. If you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will even port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're also brought to you today by FanDuel, and the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you won't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into those stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. And if you're like me, you know you love that heart-racing adrenaline that comes when you're tracking your player props to see if you're going to win some money. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, let's wrap it up with some notes from the bye week practices, and we're going to stay on the defensive side. Now, we talked a lot about the reconstruction and how the defense just needs to settle in, and we ended last week, if you missed Friday's episode, talking about Scott Simon's comments on the defense and trying to get guys to have lower snap counts and how attrition has played into some of the issues that we've seen defensively, even though the defense just objectively has not been very good, especially on the back end. Well, we have some notes, and again, to attribute these, Billy Embody on 3 does a great job being down there in DFW. So, Lamadrick Spencer, we mentioned this at the end of last week, either Thursday or Friday. He's got a hamstring problem. Scott Simons, the DC, talked about it. So we don't know when Lamadrick Spencer will be available again. So, what did SMU do retroactively? Well, they moved Deuce Harmon into nickel, which bumps Ahmad Moses back to free safety. Now, Ahmad Moses' best position is free safety, so you like that, but moving Deuce Harmon, who's been your best outside corner, even though that's kind of been a low bar in 2025, moving him to nickel, I think is an interesting choice. Now, Speedy Nettles has come on. Scott Simons really likes what Speedy Nettles has done. And so I think that'll be interesting. But guys like Jalen Davis Robinson, Smoke Robinson, who also flashed a couple of times against TCU, especially to the broadcasting crew, will also have some more snaps. And then you've got Marcellus Barnes in there as well. And the second note, I think, makes the first note a little bit more stomachable. Alex Kilgore and Zakai Barker were in full pads last week at practice. And at what point, here's my question. At what point do you have so much rotation that it just spirals out of control? And look, credit this defensive staff for saying, all right, we have to try everything. We got to figure this out. Now, it's interesting that in a league with some really big receivers, your upcoming opponent notwithstanding, that your biggest corner, I think, is playing inside. But I'm open to suggestions. And especially because Nettles has looked a little bit better and Smoke Robinson has really started to come on. Smoke Robinson had a few really good plays against TCU a couple of weeks ago. So, if those guys are coming on and you think, okay, we can move Deuce Harmon into the nickel spot and allow Ahmad Moses to really be in his best spot rather than hoping that we get really good out of a patchwork spot, that might end up being a little bit better. Think about this. You guys play Madden or college football, whatever. You've got players who their best overall is at one position. They got a really good overall at another position, right? So, but you always want your best players playing where they're best at. I think that's the best way to go about it. So, Ahmad Moses played pretty well against TCU at nickel, but his best is where he can back up everything at free safety. And just from a football schematic perspective, if your corners are a little bit shaky or you're not really sure what you're going to get from them, I think a really good back-end safety as your cushion, as your eraser, is certainly the way to go. So I definitely am a proponent of making that move from Ahmad Moses going from nickel to free safety to back to free safety. I totally agree with that move. It does leave questions about outside corner, though. And with Nettles being a speed guy and Smoke being a physical guy, you could have your bases covered. They both have good length, too. And I'm going to look at this very positively here. Maybe they found it. Maybe they found it. Because Deuce Harmon has enough experience to where nickel's not going to be some insane adjustment for him. And I think that allows you to take some chances with younger dudes on the outsides. Because they look like good corners and good potential. Are they going to get beat some? Sure. Are they going to miss a tackle or two? Sure. But maybe what if? Because injury can do this to a football team sometimes. What if the injuries have allowed SMU to find their right combination? What if? And it's not as if Lamadrick Spencer was awesome when he was on the field. He wasn't miserable, but he wasn't awesome. So what if this has allowed SMU to find its perfect final combination? And the last thing I'll say is this too. I will say this. Even though Syracuse is going to be without Steve Angeli, they have wide receivers enough that are going to be able to challenge you, and you're going to figure out, okay, is this working or is this not? Because if you got wide receivers running free and the quarterback's unable to hit them, you'll still be able to see that there's wide receivers running free. Jonte Cook, really good player. Even though he fumbled twice, just had a really rough game against Duke on Saturday. Justin Ross Simmons, Emmanuel Ross. I mean, they got dudes. They certainly have dudes who can play. So, especially Cook, who's going to be on the outside. So, you're going to be challenged to see, okay, even if Ricky Collins can't get the ball to the dudes, are they covered or are they not? Because you will eventually play some quarterbacks who can get the ball to those dudes. Carson Beck is on the horizon, as is Cade Klubnik. Okay? Miller Moss had a pretty solid game on Saturday, this weekend against Pitt, is who they played. So, the challenges are coming, but the Syracuse game has athletes enough to challenge your adjustments to prove them either correct or incorrect. You may have to watch the All-22 to figure it out, but the Syracuse game is not going to be any cakewalk, and it's going to be a game that's going to give you some answers. But credit Scott Simons. Credit Scott Simons for even though it's looked pretty rough at times, he is still aggressively trying to figure out what is going to work. And right now, you and everybody else in the conference are 0-0. Just go win one game at a time, answer your questions, and go from there. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU on a Monday. Glad we're back talking about another game that's on the horizon. Hope the bye week was awesome for everybody, including the players. Hey, make sure on Thursday that you are looking out for college football kickoff on Fire TV, because Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview, hosted by Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12, along with AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson and former college star Jesse Holley, and the rest of Locked On's local experts. It's a college football preview only Locked On can do, so catch it every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV.